Welcome to Thought for the Day on Thursday the 4th of August. Today's reading is from Luke chapter 22 verses 47 to 62, and it is taken from the Contemporary English Version of the Bible. While Jesus was still speaking, a crowd came up. It was led by Judas, one of the 12 apostles. He went over to Jesus and greeted him with a kiss. Jesus asked Judas, "Are you betraying the Son of Man with a kiss?" When Jesus' disciples saw what was about to happen, they asked, "Lord, should we attack them with a sword?" One of the disciples even struck at the high priest's servant with his sword and cut off the servant's right ear. "Enough of that," Jesus said. Then he touched the servant's ear and healed it. Jesus spoke to the chief priests, the temple police, and the leaders who had come to arrest him. He said, "Why do you come out with swords and clubs and treat me like a criminal? I was with you every day in the temple, and you didn't arrest me. But this is your time, and darkness is in control." Jesus was arrested and led away to the house of the high priest, while Peter followed at a distance. Some people built a fire in the middle of the courtyard and were sitting around it. Peter sat there with them, and a servant girl saw him. Then, after she had looked at him carefully, she said, "This man was with Jesus." Peter said, "Woman, I don't even know that man." A little later, someone else saw Peter and said, "You are one of them." "No, I'm not," Peter replied. About an hour later, another man insisted, "This man must have been with Jesus. They both come from Galilee." Peter replied, "I don't know what you're talking about." Right then, while Peter was still speaking, a rooster crowed. The Lord turned and looked at Peter, and Peter remembered that the Lord had said, "Before a rooster crows tomorrow morning, you will say 3 times that you don't know me." Then Peter went out and cried bitterly. Imagine the scene. For weeks it has been obvious that the authorities would like to stop Jesus. He's been a disruptor, he's been causing them problems, and they want him stopped. Since his triumphant welcome into the city on Palm Sunday, they have been looking for a way to stop him. His disciples have become more and more aware of the danger, and they are afraid for him and for themselves. And all this week, in the preparation for the Lord's Supper, Jesus' response has become ever more cryptic, saying things they don't want to hear and can't understand. Now, through this long evening, there has been a sense of something significant about to take place. And it lies over all of them like a heavy weight. In the darkness of the Garden of Gethsemane, the very air seems charged. Jesus has told his disciples to watch and pray. And he has withdrawn himself to pray, in order to prepare himself for what is to come. But the disciples are exhausted from all the tension and emotion, and they fall asleep. All of which leads us to today's passage. As Jesus returns from his time of prayer and wakes the sleeping disciples, he is confronted by the crowd that Judas has brought. The crowd was substantial. perhaps a full cohort of Roman soldiers, about 600, plus the temple guard and the temple authorities, and they're armed for a fight, expecting resistance. Judas does not simply point Jesus out to them. Instead, he greets Jesus with a kiss as a friend would. This betrayal has suddenly become very personal. As I read the first half of this passage, what is striking is who is in control of the situation. We are told that Satan has entered Judas, and he is now directing operations. The priests and authorities have brought a small army to ensure that they can overpower and subdue. And yet, it is obvious to me that it is Jesus who is in control here. He's not being subdued and dragged off to his fate. Instead, he is going willingly, giving himself up and allowing himself to be led away. Confronted by hate, he continues to do what he has always done: to love, heal, to reach out even to those who wish him harm. He says, "But this is your time and darkness is in control." Darkness is in control, but there is no sense of losing the battle to darkness, only that God has allowed it to accomplish his purpose, and that God has set limits on how long and to what extent that control can be used. Jesus is able to calmly go forward because he knows that even in this hour of darkness, God is present and God's purposes will be accomplished. I can only be amazed at Jesus' quiet calm, knowing what is to come. We know that as he prayed in preparation for this, he was distraught, but there's no sign of that here. Now there is only calm and quiet determination. His time of prayer has given him peace, strength to stay the course, complete trust in and reliance on God. And then we come to Peter. Peter, so fierce in his love for Jesus, so confident that he will stand by his Lord. I imagine him in the garden that night, woken by Jesus, confronted by the mob, outnumbered, ill-equipped, probably still groggy with sleep. He is the first to come out swinging with the sword. But he's misread the situation completely. How often do I, like Peter, misread the situation? Do I forget that God is still in control, even when it seems like the forces of darkness are winning? I have to wonder what would have happened if Peter and the other disciples had managed to stay awake and pray as Jesus had asked them to do. Would they have felt the same peace and trust in God that Jesus did? It is interesting that Peter, while Jesus is beside him, is full of confidence and strength. He cannot imagine denying his Lord, and he shows himself ready and willing to fight even though the odds are stacked against him. How quickly that all drains away when Jesus is no longer beside him. How easily he gives in to fear. Like Peter, we are more likely to fail when we don't stay close to Jesus. And like Jesus, we need to pray most when the hour is darkness. Thank you for listening. Have a good day.